If you're in your early 20s and you dream about becoming a millionaire one day, it might actually be more attainable than you think. For those of you that are new, my name is Oliver. I'm a 30-year-old data analyst that's on track to become a millionaire before I turn 40, and that's in USD inflation adjusted, assuming no significant change in my income trajectory. So at the end of the day, you don't need to be a hotshot CEO to become a millionaire. All you need to do is to follow these 4 steps religiously. Now, this is not financial advice, but I'm sharing a framework that's worked for me and many others. I'm not going to charge you anything for this information. All I ask is that if you find this helpful, share it with a friend. Alright, now, without further ado, let's dive into it. Step number 1 is to learn an in-demand skill that's not a fad. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Getting rich through entrepreneurship is pushed quite a bit on social media. Dropshipping, TikTok shops, and Amazon FBA are all pushed as ways to get rich quickly. Unfortunately, these are fads. And because there is no barrier to entry, anybody with a pulse can start a dropshipping store, making it extremely hard to turn a profit. The only people making the big bucks are the people selling you the course on how to do these things. A great analogy to this is the 1848 California gold rush. Back then, the guaranteed way to make money is to sell shovels. You can verify this through Wikipedia. It reads, "While gold mining itself proved unprofitable for most diggers and mine owners, some people made large fortunes, and merchants and transportation facilities made large profits. It seems like the easy way to make the big bucks is to sell other people on the vehicle to do the thing." Look, starting a successful business can make you extremely wealthy, but oftentimes it's a long road that's not for everybody. But the good news is that you don't need to start a business to become a millionaire. If you're knowledgeable in an in-demand skill, say data analytics or data engineering, you're always going to be in demand as a knowledge worker because these skills solve difficult problems that a lot of businesses face and will continue to face in the future. Sales, marketing, and finance are also in-demand skills that can help you make a great living for years to come. Step number 2 is to get a high-paying job with the in-demand skill that you learned in step 1, and save 10 to 20% of every paycheck and invest in the S&P 500. With the skill that you learned in step 1, stick to it and get jobs that help you sharpen that skill. Big pay packages usually come with expertise, so if you pick a skill, stick to it, and take pride in becoming a master of your craft, it can turn out to be quite lucrative to you. And the amount of money that you make can literally compound over time. Even if your first job only pays $50K, it's not unheard of to 4x or even 5x the salary in a matter of 5 years. Ask me how I know. So up until this point, we talked about making more money. Now we're gonna shift gears a little bit and talk about saving more. Every month, you should aim to save at least 10 to 20% of your paycheck and invest that money in the S&P 500. The easiest way to do it is to buy a low-cost index fund like the VOO. Now, if you're very early on in your career, saving 20% of your paycheck is a very aspirational number because I've been there. I understand that after you pay your bills, you barely have anything left over, but just try to get into the habit of saving and investing. Save anything, right? Start small, maybe start with 5% and gradually work your way up. But eventually, as you hone your skills and become more valuable in the marketplace, you should aim to save 20% of every paycheck if you can. And some of you guys out there might like finance, you like to pick individual stocks. I like to do it too just for kicks, but I always make sure individual stocks are less than 10% of my overall portfolio. And here's the reason why. In 2024, 60% of actively managed professional mutual funds underperformed the S&P 500. These are mutual funds that hire Ivy League grads, the best and brightest, to research stocks around the clock in hopes of generating a return over the S&P 500. I don't know about you guys, but I have a day job, so I don't have time to research stocks all day. As a result, I don't really expect myself to generate a better return than these mutual funds. And if you expand the timeline to 10 years, 80% of actively managed mutual funds underperformed the S&P 500. I would just put your money in the S&P 500 and forget about it. It's returned 11% every year since 2010, inflation adjusted. So if you're looking for an easy way to grow your money and not lose out to inflation, S&P 500 is your best friend. And obviously, the stock market is risky by nature, but if your goal is to become a millionaire in the long term, as long as you hold on to your investment and don't panic sell when you're down 20%, you'll be okay in the long run. And obviously, if you're more risk averse, you should never put all your money in the stock market. Consider putting 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account like Marcus by Goldman Sachs. This way, if you have an emergency and need the money, you can take your money out relatively quickly, but at the same time, you still earn some interest so you're not losing out to inflation. Step number 3 is to change jobs frequently. This is not our parents' job market anymore, and no matter how much you love your job, you should consider changing jobs every 3 to 5 years, especially if you're early career with less than 5 years of experience. Most companies will give you a 3 to 5% raise, that's if you get anything at all. However, if you have less than 5 years of experience, you can usually get a 15 to 20% bump when you switch jobs. The other hidden benefit of switching jobs is that whenever you join a new company, you get exposed to new ways of doing things that will accelerate your learnings. And as a result, your value on the marketplace will increase. The fourth and final step is something that a lot of people struggle with, and therefore delaying their path to $1 million by 5 to 10 years. And this is to avoid lifestyle creep. When you start making more money, you'll be tempted to spend more money on your wants than your needs. I don't blame you because it's human nature, but if you want to become a millionaire ASAP, you need to keep this in check. For most people, the biggest financial mistake that they make is to rent an over-the-top apartment, or worse, buy a really expensive car that they don't need. If you get locked into a $1,000 per month car payment for the next 5 years, by the end of that, you lose 50% of the value on your car. Car leases are even worse because you don't actually own the car. You're just paying a monthly subscription. If you think about how much money that will be in 10 years, if instead of wasting it, you invested that in the S&P 500, it would really hurt. My advice is to buy a reliable used car and drive it until the wheels fall off if you could. Obviously, you should treat yourself from time to time. Becoming a millionaire is a marathon and not a sprint. It's a lot like exercising or dieting. If you're restricting yourself to the point where if you're miserable all the time, it'll be very hard to keep it up. So treat yourself. Speaking of treating yourself, I recommend traveling while you're young instead of buying luxury goods. The happiness from that will last longer. Thank you for watching the blueprint to becoming a millionaire. If you start this process in your early 20s right after college, you can expect to have $1 million by the time you're 45. The key element here is really how long you invest in the market. If you're in your 30s and you want to get there in the same timeline, you have to be a lot more aggressive about saving, roughly 20 to 30% of your income every month. So yeah, this is how everybody can become a millionaire. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well.